Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar/class presentation on emotional aromatherapy, or how to use essential oils to help support your emotional well-being. Today, I am going to go back and forth a little bit between a slideshow and showing you some hands-on different things. So let's take a look at this. So let me make sure, actually, you can't see that yet. I need to do the share screen. There we go. Okay, so now you should be able to see it. Okay. So the first thing, couple things about me. So I am a certified holistic health coach. I studied online with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and I graduated from there in 2015. I have been teaching classes and learning and exploring about essential oils since 2011. I currently also have Hashimoto's autoimmune condition, hence the reason why I started the meetup group that I know at least some of you came from, which is the meetup group on how to have self-care and heal yourself from autoimmunity. And I have found through I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2018. And that was January of 2018. So it's been about 5.5, I guess, years now, that supporting healthy emotions and prioritizing self-care is something that is really, really important when you have an autoimmune condition. And I found that essential oils have helped play a role in that. It's obviously not the only thing that I use, but has just basically been one of many tools in my toolbox. So what are essential oils? You could come up with a couple different definitions for them, but the most basic definition is that they're aromatic compounds from plants. And so essential oils basically are extracted from the plant in one form or another. Typically, they're either going to be steam distilled or cold pressed. And the biggest difference is that steam distilled would be things like lavender, tea tree, spearmint, peppermint, a lot of your florals, so like lavender, rose, helichrysum, all of those different oils are going to come from being steam distilled. And same thing with a lot of your wood oils, whereas your citrus oils are going to be cold pressed because they have to get it out of the root or out of the rind of the fruit. So cold pressed, so it would be things like orange, lemon, lime. Those kinds of oils will come and be cold pressed from the rind. And the end result is a very strong aromatic compound that can have benefits for a wide variety of different physical conditions and your physical well-being. And then, of course, your emotional well-being is what we're actually talking about tonight, though. Okay, so a couple of things to keep in mind when it comes to quality of essential oils. The quality of an essential oil really matters a lot when it comes to your therapeutic benefit. If you're wanting to just take some and just, use it as a natural cleaner in your house, or, as a perfume, and maybe you don't really care that much about the quality. The slides aren't switching. Okay, can you guys see the slide that says quality of essential oils? And maybe let me know there if you can see that one. If you can't see that one, oh, you just see the first slide. Okay, that's weird. Let me try. Thanks for letting me know. Let me try. Let me stop the screen share. Let me try it one more time. Okay, now you should see the one that says quality, I think. Let's see. No, let's see. Now you should hopefully be seeing the quality one, and maybe I just need to switch. If I go down like that, does that make a difference? You see them? Just see the first slide still? Yes. Oh, okay. So you ended up seeing, okay, good. Okay. So quality is really, really important. And the more you learn about essential oils, the more you realize that in a lot of ways, it's a very dirty industry. And there's a lot of things that people do that don't result in there not being very good quality. So the first thing I always tell people is that it's really not a good idea to buy essential oils at Walmart, Amazon, at the grocery store, that kind of thing, because you're just not going to be getting the good quality that you should be getting. and that you want to get if you're hoping to get good physical or emotional well-being benefits from them. So then the second one, like that says there's lots of variation in the quality of an essential oil. And if you want to do an experiment to test this, you can actually buy the same one from different brands, and you will notice by just smelling them that they don't even smell the same. And a lot of times they won't even feel the same, putting them on your skin, all kinds of things like that. And testing actually shows that a lot of the, especially the really super cheap essential oils, do not contain what's actually in the bottle. So an example of this is a study that I became aware of that they did with birch essential oil, where they tested 27 different bottles and brands, and none of them had any actual birch in it, which was really shocking. They actually, at best, some of them had wintergreen, which is a really similar chemical compound to birch, but it's still not birch. And then some of them had expired liquid aspirin in them, which is actually pretty scary when you think about it. So that's why it's really, really important to know what is in your bottle. Yeah, yikes is right. You don't want to be, so you really should know what's in your bottle. And there's a couple different ways of determining that. And one of those is to know what the source of the plant is. And if you can't find that out, which with a lot of the generic super cheap stuff you buy on Amazon or whatever, and the other thing, especially with a place like Amazon, is that Amazon, there are a lot of fake products on Amazon, especially when it comes to essential oils. So there's people selling products on Amazon that are labeled as being from one brand, but they aren't actually that brand, because the person selling it has actually diluted it, or they've taken it out of the bottle and gone and put something else in the bottle. And so there's just a lot of issues there. I've heard all kinds of nightmare stories of people that have bought essential oils on Amazon and they ended up getting something that wasn't what they thought they were actually getting. So that's a whole issue in and of itself as well. So the source of the plant is important. There also are no labeling requirements in the United States and in a lot of other countries as well that require you to say what's actually really in the bottle. And along with that, you also want something like, you want to have the Latin name for the plant is really, really important. Yeah, exactly. You want to have the label, you want to know the Latin name, and you should be able to find out what kinds of testing has been done on that essential oil. There should be some way of looking up the lab results of the testing of that bottle. And if you can't obtain that information, then you probably don't want to be putting that essential oil onto your body. And then last but not least, to keep in mind is that many essential oils that are being sold are technically like a perfume and not an actual medical grade essential oil. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you're interested in buying a perfume, then that doesn't matter. But if you're looking at actual real benefits for your physical and emotional well-being, this is a whole different ball game than just a perfume. Okay. So you have 3 different ways that you can use essential oils. The first one is the one that a lot of us are pretty familiar with, and that's the way of aromatic. So what does that mean? That means just, and putting it out into the air or smelling it. So, maybe just taking a little bottle and putting it up to your nose and smelling it, or putting it into diffuser is going to be the more common way that a lot of people are familiar with it. So filling the diffuser up with water and then putting a few drops in, and then turning it on and letting that aromatic smell come in and enjoy that ambiance of a diffuser. I personally like to use diffusers as an alternative to candles a lot, because candles have got a lot of them synthetic fragrances and things like that. And then, of course, you've got the fire risk and all that kind of stuff. And so you can use a diffuser instead. The second way is internal, and this can be a little bit controversial. Some people don't like the idea of it. Some people, it just kind of depends. And I will say that internal use, really, you've got to be really careful with internal use, and you really absolutely must know what's in the bottle if you're going to use it internally. And typically the way that I look at it, and I can show you when we go away from sharing here in a minute, I will show you, is that the essential oils that I use, there are certain ones that actually have supplement labels on the bottle which means that it's actually safe for internal consumption. But you will notice that a lot of, especially the cheaper, more perfume type essential oils, do not have a supplement box on them, which means it's not safe for internal consumption. And then there are some like wintergreen and birch, and certain ones, because of their chemical compound, are not good for internal consumption, even when they are a medical grade. And that's, you just would not use internal use. But what I also tell people is that there's really a fine line with internal use, and really you should try them with aromatic and with skin, which is the third one. Those should really be your go-to methods before you use internal, and internal should really only be used when that's really the only way to get the benefit from the essential oil. And internal use is really focusing on physical well-being as well. Like, there's not really a scenario in which I would ever use essential oils for emotional well-being and I would take them internally. So for our purposes, when we're talking about our emotions, we're going to be talking about either aromatic and skin. And the generally speaking, especially a lot of the blends for emotional well-being are not ones that are going to be safe to take internally anyway. So skin, so that's kind of how it implies. And typically the way that I recommend, and the way that a lot of aromatherapists and other people will recommend you do with skin, is you take a small amount of some kind of a carrier oil. Like, you could use like a fractionated coconut oil, so that means it's like a liquefied coconut oil. You could use an almond oil, a jojoba oil, or just some kind of a oil that basically is like a fatty type carrier oil. There's different ones out there, but I would say almond and the fractionated coconut and the jojoba are probably going to be the most common. Technically, you could probably use olive oil as well, even avocado oil, and you put just a small amount, say about a tablespoon or so of that oil, and then you put 1 or 2 drops of the essential oil in with that carrier oil, and you mix it, and then you apply it to a certain part of your body. So in the case of general use, where you're just trying to benefit from it, especially with like the emotional, you typically would put it like on your wrist a little bit and then kind of rub it on the wrist and then inhale by kind of smelling it a little bit, or put it on the bottoms of your feet and then immediately cover the bottoms of your feet with some socks, and the cotton socks. And the reason you want to do that is then the oil will absorb up into your body and go up into all your organs through your feet. And another thing to think about is when you start to realize how potent your feet are, and the fact that anything that you put on your feet can be absorbed up into your feet, you really want to be careful what you're putting there. I know some people, when I point that out, they start thinking, oh, so for example, if you were to, go step on a floor that just got cleaned and you use some kind of chemicals with it, and you're stepping on that floor barefoot, you're going to be absorbing those chemicals into your entire body, because your feet are one of, if not the most porous parts of your body. So that's something else health-wise just to think about. Okay, so a couple of things to consider of why essential oils for emotions. So smell impacts our emotions. So that's one reason. And if you think about it, a lot of us all have different memories. You could go back in time to thinking about when you were younger, maybe, and one of your parents or your mom would bake cookies. What kind of memory or emotion does that impact for you? Or maybe you would go over to your grandma's house and she had like a certain kind of perfume, or something there would, evoke some kind of a memory. Or maybe every time you smell a certain kind of flower, that brings back some kind of a memory to you. And so smell can be very, very powerful for emotions, and certain smells have been known to trigger different kinds of emotions in people. And the other thing to think about is that most physical conditions also have an emotional component to it. So for example, I learned recently, just a couple of weeks ago, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that they've actually done quite a few studies that say that people who lack the ability to forgive other people and who harbor unkind thoughts and continue to not be able to practice forgiveness towards other people, that can be one of the root causes of a mental illness in people. And so, there's just a lot of different things. People who go through trauma as well, a lot of times will develop different physical conditions. And so there's a lot of different interconnections between our emotions and our physical well-being. And that's, a lot really in and of itself, a huge conversation for another day. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is the wheel of emotions. And now I'm going to have to stop screen share and just show you what I have. So hopefully, let me expand my screen. And I think I'm going to need to unblur so that you can actually see that better. Now, hopefully you can see that better. This is a wheel of emotions, and I will give you the URL of where you can actually get it for essential oils. And the blue side says negative emotions, and the yellow side says positive emotions. And what you can do, and it's going to be really hard to read, you're not going to be able to see all of the text that's on here. But for example, on the positive properties, around the middle, it has different things that say things like safe, joy, acceptance, peace, awareness, empowered, clarity, enlightened, trust, energy, love, comfort, joy. And then it's got a whole bunch of different smaller texts that lead out to different things. So if you look, for example, under peace, it gives you different adjectives and adverbs that are related to peace. So things like relaxed, centered, calm, peaceful, balanced, grounded. Or if you look under joy, it has things like playful, uplifted, carefree, cheerful, abundant, grateful, different things like that. So all your different positive emotions. And then on the very end on each petal, which you can maybe kind of see it, it might be difficult to totally read it, it has the different essential oil singles as well as different blends. And the blends that are on that this is based on doTERRA, because that is the specific brand that I use and promote. But if you are using a different brand, you could probably do some research and find out what components are in. Yeah, me too. What different oils are in the different blends, but this is specifically based on doTERRA. And the website that you can actually get one of these, and then we have the negative one, is HTTP is oillife.com is where you can get one of these. It's a couple bucks, I think. Anyhow, okay, so then you have blue, which is the negative emotions. And the negative emotions, so it has things like numb, wounded, confusion, insecurity, sadness, overwhelmed, unsafe, fear, anger, things like that. And then it's got, just like on the positive, you've got little smaller ones, and then you've got different ones that explain different things. So for example, on the positive side, if you were looking at, let's say, you wanted to feel empowered, the essential oil that it's recommending on here is ginger, which is kind of an interesting one because on a physical sense, ginger is used for, like nausea and stomach, supporting that kind of thing. And here they're saying on the emotional side, it's used to help you empower you. So it's kind of like, if you're having like some stomach issues, gut issues, then maybe, you're not feeling totally empowered and you could go after that one. Or on, let's see, under clarity, for confident speech, it's saying spearmint would be a good essential oil for that one. Or under cleansing, you have lemongrass. Under integrity, you have coriander. So it's got all different kinds of things that can help you with, you're saying, okay, there's these certain positive emotional aspects that I would like to enhance and have more of in my life. So what essential oil do I want to use to help me in achieving that? Or, maybe I'm feeling some of these negative emotions and I want to see what I can do to help support myself in discharging from that emotion and overcoming that and having, a little bit less of this negative emotion. So for example, with sadness is on here, you have, like, if you're just plain sad, it has ylang ylang, which I find is interesting because ylang ylang is actually an essential oil that's used in a lot of perfumes, especially a lot of the high-end perfumes, they put ylang ylang in it. So that's kind of an interesting one. Then there's loss, which is a comforting blend, which they didn't use descriptive blends on here rather than the actual doTERRA names, which would be console is the actual doTERRA one in here. And then you have let's see, overwhelmed. So for example, if you're feeling overworked, they recommend on here you try tangerine. If you're feeling fatigued or tired, they recommend basil. So this is just a really good overall resource, especially if you are planning on really delving into essential oils and emotions in more of a depth. That said, let's take a look now at some of my favorites and some of the very basic ones that you could start with that you don't have to necessarily have this wheel in order to do it. So let's go back to, here we go. So in general, some of the kinds of oils that can be really good for positive emotions would be anything with a citrus in it. And I find that citrus oil, so, like your lemon, your lavender, and your orange, were very, I mean, not lavender's not citrus, but I have lavender on there too. But lemon, lavender, lemon, lime, orange, and now I'm forgetting the other, bergamot, are pretty much your main citrus ones, and those are very good for uplifting, motivation, energy, things like that. And mint oils are a really good positive one as well. And then lavender is typically really used to help support a lot of positive emotions as well. You can experiment with different mixes of those. Oils for negative emotion, well, I put to look at the wheel, but basically a lot of the ones for negative oils are going to be, you have more of your warmer oils. So it has some citrus on here, but I would say it would more things like oregano and cilantro. And so a lot of your tree oils are going to be more what it's recommending for a lot of the negative. So even things like rosemary, dill, lemongrass, fennel, different things like that are going to be more of like the oils you would use to help support negative emotions. So blends. So what do you do how do you come up with blends? So you can either purchase an already existing blend, which in a minute I will show you and talk to you about some of my favorite blends, or you can try making your own. So if you're making your own, you want to think about what will blend well together. So a couple of good examples to think about would be things like a citrus oil with a woodsy or a floral, or a woodsy or a citrus with a mint, or for example, orange and peppermint makes a really good blend for like a motivation and energy. I like to either put it in a diffuser or just inhale a few drops of those from the bottle. Smells really, really good. Can give you a big boost of energy. So some of my favorites are Passion. There's some of my favorite blends: Passion, Balance, Citrus Bliss, Serenity, and then of course your straight lavender as well. Yeah, Citrus Bliss is a really good one. Yep, Citrus Bliss is really awesome. And so I'm going to stop the sharing so that I can show you a little bit. So this right here is a balance. You may have a little hard time seeing it, but this one is a grounding blend and is mostly woodsy oils. So this one has like blue tansy, chamomile, different things like that. And it's probably, I was trying to look on the wheel here to see where it talks about it. But generally speaking, because it's considered a grounding blend, this is one that would be used to attempt to help you overcome, some of the negative, the lack of balance in your life, help create that a little more. Then you have something like Passion, and this is one that's in a roller that's been diluted down. So depending on the brand, you may or may not find it that way, but with doTERRA specifically, they have, in most of the emotional oils, they have them either with some of these ones like the Passion, Peace, Console, some of those, they have them either in like a small undiluted 5 ml that you can use like in a diffuser or whatever, or they have it like diluted in a roller bottle and you can just kind of rub it all over you, and they end up being a lot less expensive this way. So personally, I typically will have a little bit of both, but I have a tendency personally to use the roller bottles a little bit more just because they're less expensive. They're already diluted. You can just put them on you. And then for diffuser, I typically will just kind of experiment and come up with my own thing that I like. So then we have Serenity, which is a really good one for sleep. So if you're really, really struggling with sleep, then Serenity is a really, really good one. Serenity literally practically knocks me out. It's got, let's see, what are some of the things that are in Serenity? So Serenity's got like a vanilla and a Roman chamomile and marjoram and lavender and all the different things to just basically just help you sleep. And then of course, straight lavender is always really good as well. So anyhow, those are just some of my favorite ones. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the chat a couple of links for you. You're welcome. So that is my main doTERRA site. If you don't have an account already and you want to consider getting one, or you want to consider just buying a couple of things, you can do that. I'm going to put in here, the second link is a link that goes directly to a kit that has the rollers for all of the different main emotion ones. It doesn't have Serenity and Balance, but it has, or Citrus Bliss, but it has like, so it has Peace, Console, Passion, Motivate. There's about 6 different emotional ones. And then I'm also going to put in here, if you have a lot of additional private questions or whatever, or you want to do a more thorough one-on-one with me and talk a little bit more in detail before you either consider buying anything or whatever, then I put the link to my calendar where we can chat one-on-one. Okay, so now we're done with basically the meat of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording, and if anybody wants to come off mute and ask me any specific questions, then you can do that. So let me stop the recording here. Let me see. There we go.